Hello there everybody, it's Somebody Night 2AK Nightmare. Welcome back to Higurashi, Tatarigoroshi. I don't know if this is going to be the last episode, I don't know. I have this feeling it's not going to be the last episode. Well, I'm going to point this out. In the last episode, everything just confused me. I guess this is literally what the whole chapter meant when it said you're not going to be able to make any conjectures. Yeah, that's painfully accurate. I honestly don't know what to think. I mean, I started thinking about it, and a couple comments were kind of speculating, and I can't remember which one it was. I can't remember which one of you guys did that, but one of you guys kind of brought up the Sonozaki group again, and that got me to thinking. Now, this is just conjecture, and this is literally a conjecture. This is like, I can't think of anything properly. The only thing I could think of is that the Sonozaki group has to be involved somehow. But I don't know how. How they can make a body suddenly come out of the grave and start moving around and abusing Satoko again, I don't know. Was there some sort of body double or something? I legitimately don't know. But enough about me talking, let's just try to figure out what's going on, see what happens in this episode. So let's see what goes on. The body wasn't there. The police didn't arrest me because of that, but I didn't know whether to feel happy about it. Just like Satoko had said, I failed to kill her uncle. The body wasn't there, so I was forced to conclude as much, no matter what strange natural disaster, coincidence, or miracle it might have implied. In order to free Satoko, I became a demon. And this abnormal world was my reward. Yes. Metaphorically, I had fallen into the demon world. But if that price had been in exchange for the life of Satoko's uncle, then that would have been fine. Since Satoko's uncle was still alive, still shackling her to him, I needed to become a demon once again. One more time. No, as many times as it took. I would kill that man over and over again until Satoko was liberated. Is this another murder chapter? I had already awoken. I looked at the clock to see that it was early in the morning, at just about 5. Oh, wait, I needed to do this. I completely forgot to do this last time. I was going back on the video feed, and I should have noticed this the last time. The BGM was just a tiny bit too loud, so I'm going to turn it down just a tiny bit. Same thing with the sound. Okay. Just gonna turn it down just a little bit. Now, I think that should be fine. I think. Alright. It was already light outside. Once I had hardened my resolve to become a demon again, I could feel my whole body teeming with the awakened power once more. Time wasn't an issue. No matter what, I'd do it. Okay, so this is just gonna be another murder chapter or planning chapter. I got myself up. The exhaustion from the past 2 days was completely swept away, and I didn't even feel sleepy anymore either. I slowly rose and made sure my body was moving like I wanted it to. I could feel blood flowing through each and every one of my fingers. As I got dressed, I let my mind wander, and had a strange thought. These 2 days, while I've said it was for Satoko's sake, the only thing on my mind has been killing. I've said it was for Satoko, but while actually carrying out the act, I'd completely forgotten about Satoko, albeit only temporarily. Maybe, initially, it was for Satoko's sake, but now I was just a demon, killing for the sake of killing. And as a result, I'd sunk into a world fit for such a demon. Maybe it was the same for Satoshi. He resolved himself to kill his aunt to save Satoko, became a demon, then disappeared from the sunlit Hinamizawa, vanishing into the demon world. Which meant that, after all was said and done, I'd met the same fate as him. I tried to avoid making the same mistakes, but it happened anyway. Which meant that maybe Satoshi was here. Huh? Satoshi had come to this world a year before me, so he would be here somewhere. Then, surprised, I stopped walking. There was the second set of footsteps I'd grown so used to hearing. Could you be Satoshi? The empty, lifeless air wouldn't give me an answer. But I felt a strange kind of relief, that there was someone there, that Satoshi had stuck with me the whole time. Let's go, Satoshi. Once more. This time we will set Satoko free for sure. I quietly slipped out of the house so my parents wouldn't notice. If they caught me now, when I'd been out way too late for 2 days now, they'd give me a real angry talking to. I didn't have the time to allow for that to happen. Today I would put an end to it. If the dead body disappeared, then I didn't have to bury it. I could just burn it to ashes, and then take them with me so I could kill him again every time he resurrected. I'd do it again. I'd kill him again. And this time, I'd set her free. Outside, the morning light was so beautiful as to stagger belief. I went to the storage room to find weapons with which I could kill him for sure. Blunt or not, it didn't matter to me. Right now, I didn't need to care whether someone saw or if the police came. I should have made a note of this. The freaking soundtrack for this is really nice. Like, I don't know, I like the piano music. And, I don't know, I like that music that was kind of playing whenever everything... God, when was that? Fuck it, I just like all the music in this. I'm liking it. Like, the piano's nice. I should have made notice of that earlier. This world had gone crazy after all. A world where I'd shown up at the festival and had fun, even though I wasn't there. Even if the police arrested me, I'd probably end up going right back home as if nothing had happened. Both me and that other Keiichi Maebara. Even without me, he'd fill in. I could vanish from Hinamizawa without anyone noticing. So basically, I didn't care if I was mistakenly killed. Even if I died, Keiichi Maebara would remain. After all, this isn't the world I belong in. If I was going to be killed mistakenly for Satoko's sake, then this was just part of my duty as her Nini. As those desperate thoughts became serious, the morning air felt more refreshing to me, strangely enough. Ooh, this one's scary. Let's go with this. It was a hatchet meant for chopping thick firewood. Oh, that was me talking. Good lord. Okay, so we beat him to death the first time. Now we're gonna... Oh. Its hefty steel blade was sinister, almost as though it was a tool meant for killing people. Oh, great. I couldn't exactly take it out in public like that, so I wrapped it in some old newspaper and tossed it into the basket on my bike. Sorry for using you for evil all the time. I'll need you again today, my legs. I apologized to my bike for some reason. For the past 3 days, I've only used it for dangerous things. I'd been riding this bike ever since I lived in my old town. I could walk most places I wanted to go, so I hadn't used it all that much. My mom had bought it for me when I entered cram school, thinking it would be a convenient way to get to the station, since it was far away. So I'd always used it to get back and forth from cram school. I'd only ever put textbooks and class materials in the front basket, too. I'd never tried to put a hatchet that I'd be using to kill someone in here. When I came to Hinamizawa, life finally felt fun. I met the best friends ever and had some of the greatest times ever. Those times might have been shattered now, but it was my greatest wish that I could get them back, even if I had to risk my life to do it. That's how fun those times had been. I killed someone. And now I was at it again, needing to kill someone. Murder was a crime. I didn't believe that people should ever think murder was okay. I agree. But still, the times I'd had were enjoyable enough for me to commit such a crime. My friends were irreplaceable, and the time spent with them a treasure. Hanging out, laughing, sometimes tricking each other, but always in a friendly way. I didn't fear committing any crime, as long as it was for the sake of taking back those times that gave my heart so much pleasure. Yes. This is a value I'd decided to uphold. It wasn't something I learned from a school teacher. It was a noble path that I chose for myself. I thought back to when I'd first come to Hinamizawa. About how on the very first day, Satoko had welcomed me via a blackboard eraser with a rock in it. That welcome really surprised the heck out of me. She would laugh, get angry, cry. She was never boring. She was obviously the most childlike one among us, but she was actually lively, full of vim and vigor, and good at meddling in other people's businesses. That went for Mion, Reina, and Rika-chan too. Wasn't Satoko the one at the center of everyone's laughing and banter? Satoko would try to look cool. Then Mion would make fun of her endlessly. Then Satoko would cry, which put Reina in a state of ecstasy. Rika-chan would be greatly delighted. And I happened to get mixed up in it. We would always fool around like that. It was lonely when someone wasn't around, but if I had to name one for whom it was the worst, it would have been Satoko. Her smile was everyone's smile. Ever since she stopped smiling, so did the rest of us. And for the rest of us, not smiling was the same as dying. It was just like when I was silently going to cram school every day, just to maintain my unchanging test scores. So basically, we were nothing when she wasn't smiling. She was full of hot air, but she was our princess, cute and unhateable. In that case, I was her knight, searching for the dragon's castle in order to win her smile back. Knights, of course, use swords. The awesome two-handed kind. I'm probably the only knight in the history of the world to be taking someone on with a thick, rusty hatchet. Then I saw an old woman in the ridge of a field waving to me. "Oh my, Keiji-kun! Out for a morning ride, I see." "Good morning!" I reflexively waved back in a refreshing way. Should I really have been feeling so happy waving like that? Satoko's house would be right past this road, going beyond the rice paddies. The cicadas had woken up too, and the next thing I knew, I was the audience to their daily chorus. I gave myself a hit or two in the head, and drove away my merry morning mood. I took a deep breath, then tilted my head back, quelling my pointless excitement. The body wasn't there. Its absence either meant for my killing had been an illusion, or that I'd killed him and he'd risen from the dead. If I was at the festival, then maybe I should have considered it an illusion. Coach probably thought that way, which is why he treated me like a lunatic. But it being an illusion was just impossible. I killed him without a doubt. Without a doubt. If that had been an illusion, then that would make all of this Hinamizawa I was in right now an illusion. If that was the case, then here's how it would end up. I was actually in a vegetative state due to a traffic accident, and I was currently dreaming in a hospital bed about how great it would be to spend time with friends in rice paddies like these. That was a terrifying thought, though. If this wasn't an illusion, then the only possible answer was that he'd resurrected. It would make him a literal monster. But if he was such a monster, then I was no less than a monster myself. I didn't hesitate to kill someone, and I could even manipulate curses. Takano-san had died probably because I'd cursed her. Or maybe that was a little much. No shit. If Coach and Oishi died too, like I'd cursed them to yesterday, then I'd believe it. I set my bicycle aside and went to take a look. His motorbike wasn't there. Of course it wasn't. I sent it down to hell that night, throwing it into the Onigafuchi swamp. Or maybe, just like how the corpse wasn't here, maybe the motorbike didn't get thrown into the swamp either? But the bat was gone. The fact his bike wasn't here might have been because he had gone to town and hadn't come back, not necessarily because I'd thrown it into the swamp. If her uncle wasn't around, then that was convenient on its own. Then I would just show myself in, then wait for him to return, sharpening my hatchet. If he was there. Forgotten sensations came back to my gut. A feeling of tension rose within me. The sensation was like poison, dulling my actions, but it could also be the trigger to allow me to awaken to my superhuman, otherworldly self. I held the hatchet still, wrapped in newspaper. Its weight in my hands was profound, sinister, and reliable. I didn't know what time it was without a clock, but it was probably still a little before 7. Satoko would probably be awake, preparing breakfast and her lunch, but her uncle would probably still be wallowing in indolence. A guy like him probably would have stayed up late drinking, and probably always slept until noon. I considered ringing the doorbell and having Satoko open the door for me, but if her uncle woke up at the sound, I'd waste my chance of him still being asleep. If Satoko saw me sneaking inside without ringing the doorbell, she'd be surprised. If I ran into her, what would I say? I've come to kill your uncle for you, so stay quiet? No, I couldn't do that. That would be like making Satoko responsible for his death. Be quiet and go wait outside. Maybe that would do it. How would Satoko react to that? She would probably try and get me to give up on killing him. I would have to lie somehow to get her to go outside. Satoko didn't need to know that a murder was going to occur in this house. I couldn't quite think of a good lie to tell her, but I couldn't do much just standing around like this. I made up my mind and grabbed the doorknob. Then slowly turned it and pulled. It wasn't locked. The gap between the door and the wall steadily grew larger. The chain wasn't even on. Okay. The oppressive smell of life in Satoko's house hit me. At the entrance, there were a few pairs of shoes and sandals. I couldn't tell whether he was here, or not just by looking at them. I could hear a television on somewhere. Ugh, good lord, that's a mess. The television was in the messy dining room. There was food scattered around the table, giving an impression decidedly different from a happy family's mealtime. Meals were for eating food while thanking the person for making it, meaning whatever occurred in this dining room wasn't a meal. Nobody in sight. No sign of anyone either. But with the television on, he must have been close. Could he have anticipated my coming and be hiding, waiting for me? The tension I felt was so thick, so tight, that I thought it would choke me. The newspaper wrapping the hatchet's thick blade didn't hamper its power at all. I tightened my grip on it, then very carefully took a look around. Where had those peaceful feelings from before I arrived here gone? Even the sound of sweat bubbling up on my brow got on my nerves. And then, I looked at the table and realized something. This wasn't breakfast. The grains of boiled rice were all hard and dried up. Dinner? Then, was it last night's dinner? I left the dining room, keeping vigilant, went down the hallway and found the stairs to the second floor. When that man was playing with his friends, he looked out of a second-story window. It was highly possible that room was his own, and that he slept there. I tiptoed up the edges of the stairs, quietly climbing without making a sound. I couldn't hear any kind of snoring. I didn't hear anything up there. I went through a few rooms, slowly and quietly opening the paper doors, checking inside. But I still couldn't find anyone around. Is anybody even here? To search more efficiently, I got down on this floor and pressed my right ear up to it. I could hear the television in the dining room, and a low hum, perhaps of boiling water? It was then that I started to harbor some feelings of suspicion. This house wasn't right. It seemed like people had been here since the TV was on, but it wasn't normal for nobody to be around this early in the morning. I silently descended the stairs and went back into the dining room. I looked at the food scattered about. Completely dried up rice, an overturned bowl of miso soup, the package for a side dish bought at the supermarket. I could tell Satoko had definitely been the one who made this. The food was far from Mion's perfection or Reina's gentleness, but it was sincere. Judging by how she cooked for me at my house and from the type and amount of side dishes, I deduced the meal was from last night. The number stamped into the food package read 830620, June 20th, 1983. That was yesterday. And there was food for two, which meant that this was last night's dinner, and Satoko's uncle would have been here then. Stop it, Keiichi. Don't even think about saying the word impossible again. Anyway, her uncle was here last night. That much was the truth. He had found fault with Satoko's food, thrown the bowl of miso soup, and flung the rest everywhere. Hidden deep within my feelings of calm and composure was lit a flame of anger and a curse. Should I have ever shown this man any mercy? Bump. I heard the sound again, the one from before, like a water boiler. What was it coming from? The first floor? But where? The bathroom, maybe? I could hear the noise coming from the other side of the frosted glass at the far end of the changing room. It had to have been the sound of the water boiler from the bath. Steam was enshrouding the glass door, and the heat from it was leaking into the changing room where I was standing too. My misgivings deepened. People didn't normally take a bath this early in the morning. If one did, then it would mean that in this house, time had been stopped ever since some moment last night. Whistle, whistle, whistle. Was it being reheated? The water boiler in the bathroom had been active this whole time. I checked in the clothing basket and saw Satoko's familiar uniform stuffed in it. The uniform had stains and dried rice stuck to it. Certainly not something she could wear today. It was probably from the miso soup at the dinner table yesterday. I looked hard at the frosted glass, but I couldn't see anything through all the steam. And then, an electric surge ran through my mind, and a terrible premonition came over me. Could she? She couldn't possibly have been in there since last night. That would be impossible. No. In Hinamizawa right now, nothing was impossible. I gulped audibly, then quietly pulled aside the glass door. Oh god. Hot, steaming air burst out of the slight opening. The fan wasn't on in the changing room, so it went completely white with the steam. Is she okay? Please don't tell me she's in there. Just as the hot vapor poured into the changing room, cooler air also flowed into the room with the bath. And I just heard, due to being hit by that air, a very weak moan. That was all I needed to know who it was. Satoko! No answer. Satoko was in the bathtub, surrounded by a thick layer of rising steam. The top half of her body was leaning over the edge of the tub, and she was passed out. The water boiler kept on making a whistling noise as if angered. I could see the gas flame through a small window. It was roaring at full force, completely blue. Satoko's entire body was boiled red and flaccid as though her bones had melted away. She was almost like a doll, as she laid there unconscious. I wasn't sure how many seconds passed as I stared in complete bafflement. I came back to my senses and promptly shut off the boiler. Then I dragged Satoko's small body out of the bathtub. The water in it was as hot as the water in public baths. Was she in this boiling water for the entire night? She'll die, she'll die! Satoko's body was lighter than I had expected as I laid her on the floor and wrapped her in a towel. I went back into the bathroom and opened up the vent, creating a path for a cool breeze to come through. Upon the breeze hitting her, Satoko moaned again. It'll be alright, Satoko. It's me, Keiichi. Keiichi, can you hear me?
Keiichi-san.
Satoko recognized me and muttered a response, but I couldn't really tell what she was saying. Her eyes were muddy and unfocused. I could tell she wasn't completely conscious. Upon closer inspection, her limbs and waist were twitching slightly. This was way worse than normal overheating. This was dangerous. Didn't they call this heat stroke? Think, what would the teacher do if a girl passed out in the middle of summer during a marathon in gym class or something? I turned the water faucet in the kitchen all the way on and soaked a towel in it. I then took the cold towel and pressed it to Satoko's forehead. Satoko reacted harshly to the coldness and let out a muffled voice. For burns. Right. You would soak the burn spot under running water. Then, could I run cold water in the shower and cool her off like that? That might cause reverse hypothermia. I don't know. Wait, no. Yeah, that's right. If it was that sudden, it wouldn't be good for her heart and she'd go into shock. I think I read that once before. This is just about as nursing as I could possibly give her. Anything more than this would be too much, for the likes of an amateur. What happened, Satoko? You're all right now. Your Nini will save you for sure.
5,039. 540.
What was Satoko reciting under her breath? I brought my ear to her mouth to better make out the mysterious, spell-like words she kept saying. And at that moment, I understood what they were for. Satoko, you're counting? Why? People tell little kids in the bath to count to 100 a lot, right? Satoko was counting like that? But 5,039? You moron! How long were you supposed to count in your own bathtub?
10,000.
I doubted my ears, and doubted her common sense. 10,000? You're a freaking idiot! What kind of dumbass can count to 10,000? There's no way you could do that! You'd boil to death before you got that far! Why were you...
My uncle.
Oh, I hope I kill this bastard again! Last night, her uncle flew into a rage at the dinner she'd made, saying it stunk and was inedible. Satoko didn't understand what on earth he meant. It wasn't much different than what she usually made for him. Maybe he hated the smell of the pickled vegetables she'd bought in particular. Her uncle decided the stink was originating from Satoko and shouted at her that she never ever took baths. And then he put Satoko in the boiling water and told her not to come out until she counted to... I'll kill you! I snapped and exploded. Raising the newspaper-wrapped hatchet, I stampeded through the house. I searched for anything. Traces, signs, smells, vibrations, heartbeats. With a war cry, I raced up the stairs with such force I could have stomped a hole through them. Then I found the futon in the room I thought to be her uncle's, and well aware he wasn't sleeping in it, I bashed it with the hatchet. Did he run into the closet? I'll bust the entire closet down, door and all! And if he's not there, then maybe there's a secret door. Any switches or levers in the walls here? I smashed into wall after wall with the hatchet, crushing them. Dust rose into the air and broken pieces scattered about the floor. I smashed all the glass windows, too, for good measure. After I destroyed everything beyond recognition in her uncle's room, my reason finally kicked in and suppressed my emotions. Anyway, her uncle wasn't in the house right now. I'd have to leave killing him until later. Right now I had to do something about Satoko. I went back to the changing room. Satoko was still lying limp on the floor. There was nothing more an amateur like me could do for her. I needed to take her to the clinic. Coach had treated me like a lunatic yesterday and tried to lock me up in a mental hospital. I never wanted to see his damn face again, but I still needed to go to the infirmary one more time. I needed to have a doctor look at Satoko. I thought about putting her in the dirty uniform lying in the laundry basket, but I had no experience dressing someone, so it would be pretty difficult. Shit, I don't have time to be wasting here. I eventually gave up on clothing her and decided to carry her in her bath towel. The clinic was close to Satoko's house. It would be way faster to carry her there other than to call 119 and get an ambulance. Don't you mean 911? I threw the biggest towel I could find over her and prompted her to stand. Can you stand? I'll carry you over to the clinic.
Thank you.
Her words sounded clearer than before. She was starting to come back. I cried tears of relief just knowing she'd improved even a little bit. Satoko turned over so she was lying on her face and then put up a weak struggle to get up on a knee. I smoothly swept her up and put her on my back. The towel I'd put her on seemed like it was about to fall off.
The towel, it hurts.
We'll be there soon. It won't be long, so stay strong. It didn't hurt one bit to carry Satoko. She was light, too light. The lightness actually made me feel uneasy. Outside it had gotten hotter, as though eager to attack Satoko. Fucking cicadas. Why did I have to choose this morning to get so hot out? I didn't have time to swear at them. The clinic was this way. Hoisting Satoko on my back, I broke into a trot. Okay. This is not the last chapter, I can tell that much. I don't think it is. No. Okay, please tell me she's gonna be okay. What the fuck is wrong with that man? The hilly road to the clinic, with which I had never had difficulties before, was now torturous. Big beads of sweat formed on my brow, and at some point my breath had grown faint. The hatchet in my belt was heavy and made it hard to walk. I considered leaving it, but I couldn't let it go. At least not while Satoko's uncle was still breathing. The signboard for the Erie Clinic came into sight, but I quickly noticed something was odd, so I stopped. Several red revolving lights were flashing at the clinic. 3 police cars were parked in the parking lot with their lights on. There didn't need to be much else to inform me something had happened. I didn't want to see Coach, so I planned to leave Satoko in the clinic waiting room and give the receptionist a message. But with that police officer Oishi here, I couldn't go inside so carelessly. Shit. Whoa, hello. Okay, I was not expecting there to be a sprite for that, sorry.
What's going on? Why are there so many police cars?
I gently put Satoko down in the shade of the thicket. I don't know. I'll go see what happened, so you stay here for a moment.
Leaving a lady in a place like this wearing nothing but a bath towel? Simply unforgivable.
If you can still fire off those insults, you'll be fine. I'll be right back, I added, getting to my feet. Cautious of my surroundings, I hid myself behind a car and got closer to the officers grouped at the clinic's entrance. I overheard an officer wearing a necktie, Probably their leader and a white-robed doctor having a discussion about something. The doctor didn't seem to be Coach. It was one of those who Coach told to make the tea yesterday.
So you're the first one to find it, since you were on morning duty? So then, what did it look like?
He was sitting on the sofa in the head office. He looked like he was taking a nap.
There was a jug and an empty bottle of sleep medication on his desk, so you immediately thought he had tried to commit suicide with it? What else?
His high temperature and inconsistence indicated several severe disturbance of consciousness. It seemed like a typical case of sleeping pill poisoning, so I immediately began to treat him.
Without calling the police or an ambulance?
This is a hospital, and I'm a doctor. Since his life was in danger, it's my job to treat him at once.
Yes, I understand. Okay, what else?
His breathing was in disarray, so I put him on a respirator. I also administered breathing stimulants. It had no effect, so I prepared a medical ventilator, and...
Right. So in other words, you did what you could, but it wasn't enough. That's it, right? You reported this as soon as he died?
Yes. It was very unfortunate that we were unable to save him. Just then, a radio in one of the police cars started to buzz, producing a broken mechanical voice.
This is HQ. Komiyama-san, can you hear me? Over.
Hello, this is Komiyama. We've come up with something. It looks like he committed suicide with sleeping pills. No notes or anything. Suicide? What the heck were they talking about? Someone had committed suicide at the clinic? But who? I wished Takano-san dead, and she died the next day. And yesterday, I wished Coach was dead. Then, could he have...
Did he use sleeping medication regularly?
I don't really know.
Did he normally complain that he was tired or wanted to die?
Well, Ire-sensei was normally so, himself. He never acted like that.
Oh my god.
It actually... Oh. So, I was right. Ire-sensei. They were talking about Coach. Coach killed himself. Why would he do that? There couldn't have been any reason he wanted to die. The only reason that came to mind was that I wanted him dead. This world was insane. If I wanted someone dead, they'd die. That was the kind of world this was. Then, what about Oishi? What happened to him? If people really died because I wanted them to, then something should have happened to him too. Oh, great.
I've sent you backup. The chief wants you to leave the rest of them and get to searching for Oishi's car.
Yes, sir. Please excuse me then. Wait, searching for Oishi's car? It looks like we're getting relieved here, so please leave everything as it is right now. Alright, let's go. The officers nodded and split into the patrol cars. Searching for Oishi's car? Did they just say searching for Oishi's car? Is he dead too? What the fuck? Searching for his car. That meant he had gone missing? Takano-san, Coach, and Oishi. When I wished for it, the very next day, they disappeared. No matter how angry you were when you said you wished someone was dead, it didn't normally happen. Everyone knew just wishing for it wouldn't make them dead, and that's why people could utter such curses so lightly. But the curses I uttered were being granted. At the time, I hadn't even been walking, and yet, tap, I heard a footstep. No, and it wasn't only one this time. Tap, tap. They came from behind, and they stood right behind me, reaching a hand for my shoulder.
Would you mind telling me what's going on?
Ugh! Satoko? Don't scare me like that.
I'm the scared one here. I'd prefer it if you didn't shout so suddenly.
It was Satoko. Her eyes were still unstable, unfocused, but she seemed to be able to at least walk on her own now. She looked far better now compared to her earlier exhausted state. How do you feel? Are you better?
My head still hurts. But I can't stay outside like this forever.
Or looking like this forever. She gave a smile, a show of courage, but her legs were still shaky.
Anyway, what on earth is going on?
From what I just heard the police talking about, Coach apparently committed suicide.
Eh?
Satoko was at a loss for words. Her face grew paler and paler, and I could tell she was doubting her own ears.
Keiichi-san, is that true? I didn't mishear you?
That's what I heard. They said Ire-sensei killed himself with sleeping pills. Satoko went down on her knees and broke out in tears.
It can't be. Kochi would never ever kill himself.
As I watched Satoko crying and clawing at the grass, I felt myself trapped by guilt and remorse. I got so angry that Coach was treating me like a madman yesterday, that he'd betrayed me, that I thought he'd be better off dead. But even Coach, who to me deserved to die, still must have had people who loved and respected him, like Satoko here. In my selfish, egotistical anger, I wished for his death and it was granted. And now Satoko was crying hysterically as a result. The guilt tore at my heart. I worked myself up to murder for Satoko's sake. I decided I wanted Satoko to be happy, but was that really all it took? Murder meant taking someone's life. It meant making everyone attached to that person sad. In Satoko's uncle's case, of course, nobody would be sad, so I didn't feel a sense of guilt at all. But Coach's death was different. I had wanted to make Satoko happy, and that had resulted in me inflicting a deep sadness upon her, hadn't it? But Coach killed himself. It wasn't my... Satoko still hadn't stopped crying, but she seemed to be a little calmer now. Wiping her tears, she stood up.
I'm sorry.
And the only thing I could think of to say to her was an apology.
Why are you apologizing?
Yesterday I got into a fight with Coach, and I thought that I wanted him to die. I wanted it so he really... Satoko looked at me dubiously for a few moments. Eventually her expression softened as she interpreted my words in her own way.
It isn't your fault, Keiichi-san. Coach was an adult too. He felt like there was something he had to give his life for and chose to do so after a lot of worrying and suffering. It's not anyone's fault.
She smiled a little, trying to comfort me. Can we just get you some clothes, please? Oh, thank you in that little sad moment, thank you.
I don't want to be naked forever. I want some clothes.
Are you okay? Shouldn't you get someone at the clinic to...
I won't die from putting on clothes before going.
Satoko readjusted her bath towel and started back along the path. Her stride was wobbly, and it didn't look like she'd recovered as much as she let on. At first, Satoko tried to go back home, but it was the time of the morning that when people were going to school and get to work, so after seeing people walking around, she thought better of it. She must have been pretty embarrassed wearing only the towel.
I'm going to Rika's house. My clothes should be there. What's wrong, Keiichi-san?
Satoko noticed how I was hanging my head and spoke to me.
Despite how he might have come off, Coach was an adult, alright? He would certainly not have killed himself after a petty fight with you, Keiichi-san. Please stop blaming yourself.
At first I thought it was a coincidence, but with 3 people now, I couldn't discard the possibility. There was no such thing as impossible in this world. These past few days haven't made any sense.
What hasn't?
Satoko seemed to be having trouble breathing, but she still tried to listen to what I had to say. At the Watanagashi festival the day before last, you went home on the way there, right? And I went there and had a lot of fun.
So it would seem. I do apologize for getting so upset with you about it.
Satoko remembered how she blew up at me in the classroom yesterday and bowed to me a little. If I said I actually didn't go to the festival at all, would you believe me? Satoko looked at me confused. She couldn't help it, of course.
Of course I wouldn't believe you. What are you on about?
You wouldn't, right? I don't believe it either. I mean, I didn't go to the festival, but everyone's saying I hung out with them at there. Nobody would believe it, right?
Are you being serious?
Yeah. Ever since the night of Watanagashi, everything's been messed up. And these weird footsteps suddenly started following me everywhere. The blood drained from Satoko's expression. What?
Footsteps following you?
Yeah. I thought it was just my imagination at first, but they stayed with me. They're probably still there. I can't tell them apart now because of your footsteps, though. Satoko took a long and hard look at me. Maybe she was doubting my sanity. Coach did the same thing. I mean, why wouldn't he, after telling him this? The more I thought about it, the more I was unable to endure the feeling that my hatred for Coach had been meaningless. On the day of Watanagashi, I didn't go. I was doing something else the whole time. I wasn't sleeping or unconscious or anything. So it's not possible that I walked to the festival in my sleep and forgot about it afterwards.
This is quite strange. Then how are you at the festival?
That's what I mean! I didn't go to the festival! No, I can't let myself get emotional. If I get agitated now, that'd be like proving that there's something wrong with my head. Sorry. Well, nobody believes me, so, yeah.
If that is what you say, Keiji-san, then I'll believe you. Then what?
That night, I saw Takano-san, and it felt like she was looking down on me. So I made a wish that she would die.
Takano-san does have that sort of air about her, doesn't she? I cannot say that I don't understand how you feel.
Did you know that Takano-san died? It happened yesterday. Apparently she was burned alive somewhere.
Is that true? She died?
I wished for her to die, and the next day she was dead. And Oishi from the police, too. Do you know him? That annoying and fat detective guy? Satoko nodded a little. I heard from the police earlier, but apparently he went missing. And yesterday, actually, I wished that he would die.
Is all this true?
I don't think it was a good idea you telling her this, but you saw what happened when we talked to Coach. I mean, I trust Satoko more than Coach, to be honest, but I'm not lying. I don't want to believe it either, but it's true. Takano-san, Coach, and Oishi, I wanted them dead, and then they really died. For a little while, Satoko was at a loss. A long silence ensued.
What a scary story. I should be sure not to get on your bad side, Keiji-san.
And that's not all. There's something even stranger. It's about your uncle.
I would rather you not talk about my uncle.
He was there yesterday, right? At your house?
Can we please stop talking about him? I don't want to.
It's impossible. He couldn't have been there.
I said stop talking about him. No.
That man couldn't have been there after the night of Watanagashi because I...
No more, please, no more about that man.
I killed him with my own hands. Even the cicada stopped crying. Her face was streaked with tears, and it stiffened even more as she looked at me in disbelief. On the night of Watanagashi Festival, I killed your uncle. So, it's impossible that he could have gone back home. But still, he went back. And last night he found fault with the dinner you made him, yelled all sorts of things at you, and then basically boiled you in the bathtub. That couldn't possibly have happened. So, I wanted to make sure I'd actually killed him. So yesterday, I went to dig up the corpse I buried. But the body wasn't there. Is that even possible? I killed him for sure, but there was no body. And he went home like nothing happened. Home to you, and... That wasn't supposed to happen, was it? Satoko's entire body stiffened. She was shrinking away like there was someone in front of her about to hurt her.
You probably think
You probably think I've gone a little crazy, don't you? I don't blame you. I can't believe it myself.
Keiji-san, I think you are very confused after all the people you wished were dead coincidentally died. You're just in shock at Coach's suicide, and you're really upset. I think you should stay home from school today and rest. I'll be fine, so please, take care of yourself.
Satoko spoke like she understood me, but she also told me to go home. I could see the revulsion in her face, and I knew that she didn't want to be around me anymore. Once I show you to the clinic, I'll go home. Your legs are still shaking, aren't they? It would be terrible if you collapsed halfway there.
Really, I'm fine now. I don't want to expose my naked self to a man any more than this.
She wobbled up the shrine steps, looking like she was about to fall. I immediately ran up to her and helped her stay on her feet. But then Satoko promptly jumped away from me. That outright rejection hurt a lot. When she got to the top of the stairs, her breathing was ragged and she wasn't even looking at me. At this point, I was being ignored. Well, it was more like she didn't want to have anything to do with me. It really was a feeling of rejection, and that hurt my heart more than any blade could have. This was the path I chose for her sake. To be treated like this at the end of it all was just so saddening. Don't be naive, Keiichi Maebara. You never wanted to be repaid in the first place. You didn't do it so that Satoko would thank you. You did it so Satoko would be happy. And that was what led to this ending. Rika-chan's house was a disaster prevention storehouse used by the town council. If you went past it a little further through the shrine grounds, you'd probably reach the back of the assembly hall. Satoko was heading there, walking quickly, the gravel under her feet crunching as she went. Did she want to get there as soon as possible, or did she run to one array? I couldn't tell. And then, I heard the vigorous sounds of wings flapping. I turned around and saw a crow. I hadn't seen many crows since coming to Hinamizawa. I saw them a lot in my old town, though. On garbage day, they'd flock to trash collection points, pecking through the bags of their beaks, drag out the contents, and have a feast. As I was remembering that, I saw a few crows flocking around the shrine's donation box, and I thought how terrible it was for someone to leave a garbage bag in a place like that. The cicadas quieted. Breathing stopped. Thoughts ceased. Even time came to a halt. I ran over to where the crows were flocking. I ran there in order to drive a horrible idea out of my mind. I definitely hadn't wanted this. There's no way I would ever wish for this, even by my mistake. This was not... What? What is it? When they noticed my vicious approach, the crows all flapped upwards, fleeing into the sky. When the crows' big black bodies flew away, they exposed the garbage bag. What? What had I seen there? The scream had escaped from my throat before I understood what I was looking at. What was this? Satoko came over as well, realizing something had happened, and she looked over my shoulder. Then she screamed as well. What is it? This wasn't... The garbage bag was crimson, dyed in fresh blood. Enough of the stupid roundabout way of saying it. That's right, yes. Yes. Oh God, no! Why? It was Rika-chan. Our friend. Satoko's best friend. Always easygoing, clever as a cat, but so cute you couldn't hate her. Our friend Rika-chan, she was... Rika-chan was stark naked. She was face up, limbs sprawled. Her eyes were like glass, just staring up into the sky and Rika! Satoko broke down, crying on the spot, and yet she still couldn't approach her friend's remains. The crows had gotten through the garbage bag and dragged... Well, they dragged out an apple peel and spread it all over. No. Crows, they couldn't do this. On the spot, I started vomiting. The sour taste became a bitter one as I threw up over and over again. Rika-chan, her stomach was cut wide open. Vertically, completely open. Rika. Crows couldn't have done this. And from her open stomach, her organs, her bowels were dragged out like children's toys left all over the floor. that unbelievable sight induced oxygen deprivation in my brain. Color left my vision, a pounding headache, dizzy, and I wanted to vomit. It was like the nightmarish remains of a ceremonial killing. Someone, somewhere, had killed Rika-chan, brought her here, laid her here with her limbs sprawled out, and then cut open her stomach and dragged out her intestines. Red and pink viscera were sticking out of her gut, and her intestines were scattered in every direction like it had been for fun. The entire ground was covered in an ocean of red and black. A few of the crows had hopped around inside that ocean. They walked through the sea of blood, leaving bloody footprints, and those footprints... There were several still left on Rika-chan's body. Those sinister prints made it even more like a bizarre ritual killing. I may have wished for Takano-san and Koji Noishi to die, but I didn't remember ever wishing for Rika-chan's death. It wasn't me. I stumbled backwards and stepped on a newspaper. A newspaper in a place like this? The newspaper was what covering my hatchet. I'd kept it wrapped up and on my belt in order to carry Satoko, and that newspaper had fallen off. Sheesh, don't scare me like that. I bent down to pick it up, and then Satoko looked at me with such disbelief as if I'd never seen, and froze. She was looking straight at me, at the hatchet, on my belt. Calm down, Satoko. This isn't what it looks like. Satoko, trembling madly, backed away. It wasn't me. It wasn't. Murder. She didn't care at all that she was exposing herself through the towel. She just trembled and tried to step back from the demon in front of her. Satoko, but please calm down. But please relax. Satoko? No. Screaming weakly, Satoko began to run unsteadily. Run away, that is. Wait, please wait, Satoko! You're wrong! That's not it! The way she ran away, it was so weak, so slow. So if I wanted to go after her, I could have caught up. But if I tried to grab Satoko's shoulder or something right now, she might actually go crazy. So I had to follow her and try and clear this up.
You killed Takano-san and Coach. And Oishi-san, didn't you? You killed my uncle. And then you killed Rika. You murderer.
No, it wasn't me. I didn't kill her.
What are you saying? You said it yourself, did you not? You wanted them to die. And then everyone died, didn't they?
Well, no. Just wishing that they were dead. It couldn't.
You don't even remember what you did, do you? How can I trust a person like you? Didn't your memory of killing them just slip your mind? No, maybe you're only pretending not to remember. Besides, what is that hatchet for? Try explaining that.
It's for...
See? Keiji-san, you are a killer, aren't you? Why did you do it? You were a little mean, but you were fun and kind, and once I even thought you might be my real Nini. Why'd you turn into this?
I might have been able to slowly answer each one of Satoko's questions at a time, but in the situation, explaining my innocence in such a short period of time was impossible. I mean, I didn't even know if I was really innocent anyway. At the very least, I killed Satoko's uncle. There was no body, but I killed him, without a doubt. At that point, I was far from innocent. And I wished Takano-san, Koji, and Oishi were dead. And that curse of mine was granted. When I wished for Takano-san to die, I didn't think of it as anything more than a normal thing you'd say to someone you didn't like. But then she actually did die, and I realized that if I wanted people to die, they would. And hoping it would happen again, I cursed Koji and Oishi at the same fate. So even ignoring Takano-san's death, Koji and Oishi's were completely premeditated crimes. Was I a killer? Just like Satoko said. Was I unable to distinguish between illusion and reality, and turned into a demon without remembering it? Becoming a killer who carried out Oyashiro-sama's curse? No, that couldn't be. It was impossible. Damn it! The very word impossible was impossible in Hinamizawa right now. How many freaking times have I said that word these past 3 days? Satoko had started crying again and was walking unsteadily. At first I felt like she was still running, but now it was like she was walking away, crying from someone bullying her.
Why? Why did things turn out this way? Why?
If there was an answer to that, then I wanted to know it too. Why? Why had it turned out like this?
After Nini went away, I was lonely for a long time. But then Keiji-san transferred to our school and everyone was happy again. It was fun again. Every day was beautiful.
Yeah, she was right. Those days were bright and beautiful. And yet... After that, Satoko and I shouted the exact same thing. How did it turn out like this? The cicadas were sneering at the spectacle, our strange game of tag. And shut up. Eventually I had heard the murmuring of a stream. The forest parted and a suspension bridge appeared. Satoko was crossing dangerously, wobbling as though she might fall at any moment. And when I stepped onto the bridge, it swayed a lot, causing Satoko to stagger and fall on the spot. Satoko, are you okay?
Don't come near me! You murderer!
Satoko shouted, her hatred made very clear. It was sad. If words could cut, then this warmth flowing from my eyes would have been blood for sure.
Why did you turn out this way? Keiji-san, I really liked you.
I wanted to go up to her and give her a hand, but the distance between us was uncrossable. If I got any closer, Satoko would start shouting again, and say things that would hurt me deeply again, so I couldn't approach any closer than this. Satoko, I don't know how things turned out like this either, but I can say this. I wasn't the one who killed Rika-chan. At least that is true.
Please stop being so absurd. How do you expect me to believe anything someone who can't even rely on his own memories has to say?
I timed my hands into fists. This was mortifying. I wasn't crazy. Hinamizawa was crazy ever since I wandered into it, lost on that one night. This insane world was where at the festival wherein I wasn't, and the uncle I killed was alive, where death would come just by wishing for it. It was this world's fault. Mion and Reina started acting strangely, like they were possessed by something too, and Coach wouldn't believe anything I had to say. And even Satoko, who I should have protected, was yelling at me like this. Was the price for killing a man supposed to be this high? Was I really going to be forced to stay in such a bitter world? I did the right thing. At least I wanted to. So then, why? I hated it. Every time I asked why, the day Satoko and I enjoyed in peace went so wrong. Satoko, please believe me. I'm not a murderer.
Then what is that hatchet for? Can you give a convincing explanation for that?
Is this hatchet scaring you? Okay, I'll throw it away. That's what you want, right? Satoko didn't nod, but she seemed to be in agreement with that proposition. I clumsily took the hatchet out of my belt, then dropped it over the sides of the bridge into the stream below. There, it's gone. Now, you'll listen to me, right?
You think I'll let my guard down just because you got rid of your weapon? Keiji-san, you're strong. It would be easy for you to strangle me with your bare hands.
Like hell I would ever want to kill Satoko. You idiot. Then what should I do? Should I put my hands on my head?
Yes, why don't you? Please put your hands on your head and face the other way.
It was a cunning plan, much like the ones she used during club activities. Putting my hands on my head and turning away would mean I couldn't attack Satoko very easily. I immediately acquiesced her to her request since it would make her feel better. Is this all right? Please listen to what I have to say. Satoko stood up and carefully approached me from behind. And then, she actually came right up behind me. She was so close, and yet I was so sad that I wasn't allowed to turn around.
I sort of think I understand that it isn't your fault, Keiji-san.
Huh?
I think probably you've just been possessed by something evil. Until before, I thought Keiji-san was a killer, but now I know. After looking at your eyes, I could hear.
I could hear that Satoko was still crying, but her voice was gentle just the same.
Keiji-san could never kill anyone. Something simply possessed his body and made him do evil things.
Was she speaking literally right now? Or was she trying to admonish me? I couldn't tell.
Come to think of it, maybe. Maybe they were possessed, just like Keiichi-san. At the time, I was only thinking I would be killed, so I didn't even think about it. But now I understand. That was the work of something evil that possessed you.
Satoko? What are you... It was less like she was talking to me, and more like she was talking to herself, like she was confessing in my back.
I understand, you know. It isn't like I haven't experienced it myself.
Satoko's voice started to become mixed with sobs. Her pained voice tore at my heart. But I didn't know what Satoko was talking about.
I climbed to the top of the ritual storehouse once. It was a few years ago.
Once, when Satoko was playing hide-and-seek at the shrine grounds, she climbed onto the roof of the storehouse for ritual implements, which everyone said not to go near, and hid. Then, Satoko saw that she could get in through a window meant for ventilation. For Satoko, the word curse was plenty scary, but she was more curious about what was inside the unknown storehouse. She removed the grating on the window, which was already hanging off, slid her small body into it, and climbed inside. It was too dark to see much, but after descending, she realized just how high up she'd been. Despite the darkness, she could see a few things around her thanks to the faint light coming from the air window. And to her disappointment, it was just a regular old storehouse. She tried to leave, but the door was locked up tight from the outside, and it was made to not open from within. She would have to go back out through the ventilation window she'd come in from. But the window was high on the wall, and there was no way she'd be able to climb back up. Satoko desperately tried not to cry and racked her brain thinking of a way to get up there. There were a lot of bird cage-looking things hanging by chains from the ceiling. She took the hanging chains and strung them along the wall. If she climbed up the bundle of chains, she might be able to manage to climb up the ventilation window. There was nothing else she could do, so she had to try. And try she did. It was dark and creepy, and she didn't want to stay there forever. The more she thought about that, the more she panicked. She climbed the bundle of chains. Satoko could hear the clinks and clangs of everything creaking under her weight. And then, just as her hand reached the window, one of the metal fixtures she'd used to stick the chains on the wall flew off, and the chains all began to pull loudly and furiously every which way. Spurred on by the sounds behind her, she managed to get back onto the roof from the window. Because of the weight of the flailing bundle of chains, the other fixtures broke, and then one of the bird cages hanging from the ceiling fell to the floor with a huge noise. Under it was an image of Oyashiro-sama, his vessel, and the cage took off one of the arms, then trapped some other implements beneath it. It didn't take very long for her to grow scared of what she'd done. The deafening noise could be heard from the rest of the shrine grounds. A few of the children heard it and gathered around, and of course Rika was one of them. Then, Rika's father, the shrine's priest, with an angry look ran over, and then, as for what happened next, it was painful to remember. The only one who knew where Rika's parents kept the key to the ritual storehouse was Rika. So, he scolded her, saying that this happened because Rika pulled a prank and hid me in there. He was very angry and menacing. Just looking at him was enough to frighten anyone. He exposed Rika's back, took a strangely shaped ritual cane or something and struck her with it several times.
What the fuck?
Rika's words at the time, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." That pitiful voice, I still can't get it out of my head. I should have said it was me. I should have said so, to save my best friend from that false accusation, without being afraid of Rika's father's terrible temper. Rika gritted her teeth and cried at the crime she didn't remember doing. Ever since then, the world had been strange.
I know, I understand. This is Oyashiro-sama's curse. His judgment for messing up the ritual storehouse and forsaking my best friend.
Oyashiro-sama's curse.
My father and mother too. They vanished in that muddy stream. My mean aunt died too, but then Nini, who loved me more than anyone, ran away from home. And then, Keiichi-san transferred in and I thought I finally got my fun life back. But this time, Keiichi-san was possessed, and even Rika got killed.
There's something I heard once. Oh yeah, Shido-sama. When he really curses someone, he doesn't kill them right away. Oh, this is her saying.
He goes in order of your closest friends, and after killing them all, he kills that person last. So Keiji-san, the curse got you too. I'm sure that Reina and Mion will be cursed next. And then they'll kill and be killed. No more. No.
Calm down, Satoko. There is no curse. Nobody is trying to torment you. When I turned around, I was thrust away with amazing force. Given my hands were awkwardly placed on my head, I couldn't take the fall and lost my balance. And I'd been pushed not into the bridge, but to the side. Towards the stream.
No, this can't be happening.
As one last miracle, I was allowed to grab a cord hanging from the bridge. Far below me was the stream. We were pretty high up, and below were rocks of all sizes. If I fell, it clearly wouldn't have been pretty. The entire bridge was tilting under my body weight. My frail little grip probably wouldn't last another minute before my fingers had to let go. Satoko! Satoko! I didn't understand myself, what I meant by shouting her name then. Was I asking her to save me? Or was I asking her why she did this? Finally, everything came back into focus and I saw Satoko, and I was surprised at what an odd expression she had. It was the first time I'd seen it. It was an expression of righteous anger meant only for those who needed to die.
Die, you murderer! Give him back! Give back my Nini! Give back Rika and Mommy and Keiji-san!
As she screamed, she jerked the bridge to and fro. She didn't have to do that. I was going to fall anyway.
I won't lose to the likes of you. I won't lose to some stupid curse. I will never ever lose to you. You took everyone. I will never lose to you, not ever.
Satoko, please, just let me say one thing. I don't know what my face looked like at the time, but it seemed like it was enough to quell Satoko's agitation. I know that what I did isn't exactly praiseworthy. No, in fact, maybe I should never have done it at all, but I did it because I wanted you to be happy. Please just believe that.
You... the very end, you're still pretending to be Keiji-san.
Satoko didn't seem to have any more desire to listen to what I had to say. And for that to happen at the very end like this was tragic. I didn't do any of it so you would praise me. If it made you happy, that was all that mattered. We were nothing. Without your smile, we were nothing. So, after I disappear, please, smile. If you can get on with your new life by my dying, then please, just smile. Can't you at least promise me that?
Stop speaking! Don't use Keiji-san's mouth like that! Fall down! Die! God!
And those were the last words Satoko ever said to me. Those sad, tragic, and altogether unrewarding words. What on earth was I? My desire to make Satoko happy ended up like this. Where did I first go wrong? And what was the mistake I made? And when did I make it? Was I the crazy one? Or was it Hinamizawa? Even after all this, I thought I wasn't crazy at all. It was this eerie world that was crazy. This world I'd accidentally wandered into that one night. Because that fun world where I'd never doubted all the crazy times we had as a club could go on forever. It couldn't possibly have transformed into such an abnormal world. That fun world wouldn't have ever ended with this, with Satoko pushing me to my death. In the end, I was going to be swallowed up by this crazy world and disappear. No, I'd probably already disappeared. Yes, probably. On the night of Watanagashi. I'm sure that in the world I really belonged to, I had vanished that night, and everyone was worried. It was laughable that I'd taken this long to figure out I wasn't around anymore. Oh yeah, Shido-sama's curse on the 5th year, with Satoko's uncle dying and me disappearing. In the real world, Satoko had already been freed. Maybe my friends were all lamenting my disappearance and valiantly trying to get back on their feet. And even though they were down to 4 people, the club would reopen, and they would have a good time without me, waiting for the day when I would come back. I'm sorry, everyone. couldn't come back home. But this is what I wished for. It was my wish for Satoko's smile, and my duty as her Nini. At this point, there will be nobody left to torture you, because Satoshi and I, it took 2 years, but we succeeded. That annoying, toothy smile of yours, you wanted to see it one more time. My pain wasn't gentle or merciful. It was a sharp pain, violent, powerful, and ruthless. What little compassion I had receded in the span of a moment. And now, I could die. I could say goodbye to this insane world. Farewell, crazed Hinamizawa. Thanks for giving me the psychic power to kill people whenever I wanted. If you'll still allow it, I'll wish for one last thing. The death of this very world, of this crazed Hinamizawa, so that nobody would ever again have to find themselves lost here again.
Jesus! Was that it? Was that the end? Holy crap!
You received new tips, research notes. Demon. No, you know what? No. We're gonna continue with this. I need to know what happened. Oyashiro-sama. Nobody really knows what characters to use to write Oyashiro-sama. Knowing this is hard, partly because depending on the time period. He has been called with various titles, with subtle changes to his name, and nobody knows the real one. The only thing all time periods agree on is that the 4 syllables O, Ya, Shi, and Ro are always used. There was a theory stating the shrine, Yashiro, dedicated to Oyashiro-sama itself became an object of worship, and that people began calling it O Yashiro-sama, or Lord Honorable Shrine, but this doesn't make a bit of sense. I don't know whether this is related, but people say the Furude family, and the most respected bloodline in terms of worshipping Oyashiro-sama, actually inherited his blood. And in the legend, the Furude family passes down. If for 8 generations in a row the firstborn child is a girl, the 8th daughter will be the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. If we go by this legend, the characters used for Oyashiro-sama name should be O for honorable, and Ya for 8, and Shiro for generation. These character assignments are simply something I've thought of. There's no way to verify it. If this is true, then Oyashiro-sama would have been named as such under the assumption he would come again. The second coming of an object of worship can be seen in several religions, and so this isn't unusual. But a few of these religions call the second coming of their object of worship a day of judgment, or something along those lines, and we must not forget that they mean it to be the end of the world. Rika Furude, pampered and loved dearly by the elderly folk in the village. The rumors say she is the 8th generation and Oyashiro-sama. I do not know the family tree of the Furudes, but at the very least I can confirm that for the past 2 generations the first child has been a girl. Rika Furude watches over Hinamizawa. If the village were to lose her protection, what would happen? Would peace between man and demon be lost? Would it once again create a hellish landscape where man and demons run rampant? A gruesome feast of the demons who suddenly remembered how delicious the weak humans were, who could only cry, scream, and run for their lives. What would that look like? Just imagining it is enough to make my heart pound with excitement.
Takano?
Achievement unlocked, Detective Tatarigoroshi. We're not done. We're continuing. I need to know what happened afterwards. I'm not leaving it on a cliffhanger like that. Hell no. Okay. My head was pounding. The sky was bright. It was cold, too. It hurt. Each sensation I felt led to a new and different one awakening. Am I still alive? When I came to, I was lying face first on a dry riverbed. A few body parts hurt a lot. The skin over a bunch of my joints was torn, turned blue or red or oozing blood.
Jeez!
I could tell it was my bones that were in pain from the agony I felt whenever I moved. How are you still alive? I looked up and saw how high the bridge from which I had fallen was. Considering I'd dropped from there, it was a miracle that I could open my eyes again. Right next to me was a broken, upside-down car seat, which I guess some pranksters had brought here. Maybe this thing had been conveniently lying right underneath me, allowing me to escape instant death. Miraculous. Of course, I didn't know whether this miracle was fortunate or unfortunate. I'd failed to die, and now I was still stuck in this insane world. How long had I been unconscious for? The sun was high in the sky, so it looked like only 1 or 2 hours had passed. But my body's sluggishness didn't make it feel at all like so short a time had gone by. Mentally, it felt like I'd been asleep for a decade. The more feeling returned to my body, the more pain flooded in. It hurt so much it would have been better not to have woken up. I needed to get to a doctor. Yeah, to Coach's clinic. The term, Coach's clinic, brought memories back one after another. Memories I wish I hadn't recalled. Satoko was no longer on the bridge. She would have returned to Hinamizawa by now, and she would put on some clothes and go to the clinic, get a checkup, and report on how crazy I had seemed. The police were waiting for me without a doubt. This time, would they find out for real that I'd killed her uncle and arrest me? Or would they just send me to a mental institution like I thought they might? Still, I didn't care which it was. Please, someone stop all this pain. You can boil me or cook me after that, whatever you want. I began to walk unsteadily, just limping along. I went downstream and then through an animal trail-like path in the woods. I walked haphazardly, searching for the path I knew. Eventually, I finally came across a familiar road and set off towards the clinic. Not to my house, but to the clinic, which had treated me like a lunatic. It was hot and humid. There was no wind and the air was stagnant. For a while now, I'd been smelling the terrible stench of burned eggs, and it made my face scrunch up. And then, at last, I noticed something. I couldn't hear any cicadas. It was the first time I'd heard Hinamizawa be so utterly silent. When I thought back, it seemed like birds always chirped in the morning, cicadas always cried loudly in the afternoon, and Higurashi always rose up in the chorus in the evening. Always something to hear. I couldn't hear a single insect. What the hell's going on? The only thing I could hear was the rustling of the wind brushing the treetops. I'd never experienced this sort of quiet before. This is not good. Even the only sound coming from the trees lacked life somehow. The trees were yellow, and many leaves were spread on the ground, despite it being too early for autumn. Even the weeds that had been growing so persistently at the side of the road had yellowed, browned, and lost their vigor. Only the sunlight itself was of the June Hinamizawa I knew. And yet it seemed like the seasons had switched all of a sudden. Looking at the fallen leaves and rotting weeds led me to a few small insects turned on their backs. They weren't moving. They were corpses. I looked closer to see insect corpses scattered all around, like a child had collected them as samples and string them about. The stench, what was it? It was terrible, like burned eggs. Sulfur? Combined with all the bug corpses and leaves falling from the trees in summer, had someone sprayed herbicides or pesticides around here? Even at school, we apparently fumigate. They call it pest disinfection or something, once or twice a year. I hadn't run into anybody, despite how bright it was outside. It was mid-afternoon, and yet it felt like I was sauntering about at midnight. Well, with the smell, nobody would want to be walking around outside. Just, what was this anyway? There was no sound, no noise, not even a breath. Hinamizawa was silent. The school had come into view, right after turning this corner, and yet I couldn't hear any commotion at all. None of the shouts or grunts that children always made. It was simply quiet. What the fuck is going on? Just pretending to ignore the silence that had grown intolerable, I saw the school. And finally, I heard something. It was the sound of a few trucks. There were a few very tall trucks parked in the schoolyard, idling. About 10 workers in raincoats were unloading things from their trunks. It was hot and humid even in my casual clothing. I couldn't even imagine how unbearable that must have been. And then I remembered. Our school was rented from the Forest Service Field office building, wasn't it? Excuse me, I need some water. Sorry. Talking for about close to an hour and a half. No water. It wasn't strange at all for Forest Service trucks to be doing some kind of work in the schoolyard. Besides, what did forest rangers do anyway? I felt bad for them having to work in such heat and with such a stench about. They were taking colorful cargo out of the truck and lining it up in the schoolyard. They were containers, fairly large ones, inside multicolored patchwork bags. Heavy, too, they were being carried in pairs. They lined them up very neatly, like tuna at a riverside fish market. Several, dozens, hundreds of tuna were completely filling the fairly wide schoolyard up. I forgot my pain for a little while, captivated by this big forest ranger job I'd never seen before. As I stood there watching in a daze, the people in raincoats working on the other side noticed me. One of them pointed me out and they shouted a few things back and forth. I thought they might yell at me for getting in their way, so I decided to leave post-haste. But then, 2 trucks drove up behind me. I stepped aside and they entered the schoolyard. Sheets covered their trucks, but I could tell they were completely full. As they passed, there was an awful smell that made me want to choke. It wasn't the same burned egg smell like as before, but an even worse one, like rotten crab meat. Oh shit, I've smelled that. That's terrible. Oh, what on earth was it? I'd been enshrouded in one terrible stench after another all day. Then, certain white letters emblazoned on the side of the passing truck caught my eye. Ground Self-Defense Forces. What? What? Self-Defense Forces? Like the army? Why was the army in the schoolyard? Hey, you! Where'd you come from? Suddenly someone slapped me on the shoulders from behind. I turned around and a canopied SDF Jeep was parked there. The SDF person had on a green raincoat and a gas mask like in the movies, carrying a compressed air cylinder. He didn't look normal. There wasn't an inch of exposed skin anywhere. Where did I... Ow! When I tried to talk, I stretched a wound at my head. It made the SDF people exchange glances. I couldn't see their faces through their masks, but they seemed surprised.
Do you live in Hinamizawa? Can you tell us your name and address?
Well, yeah, I sort of live here. My name is Keiichi Mayabara. Oh, and my address, Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone. After seeing me tell them my name and address without hesitation, one of the SDF people watching from the Jeep started talking into a radio.
Base, do you read? Base, do you read? We have a 402 survivor discovered. I repeat, we have a 402, we've found a survivor.
What the hell happened?
He's in front of the Forest Service office. This is Base, we copy. Secure the survivor at once. What is his status?
Healthy. Wounded all over, but not fatally. He can walk on his own. We'll send him to HQ for safety. I was prepared to go along with the police, but the SDF? I couldn't help but think it seemed a little bit much. What the fuck happened? They urged me into the back of the Jeep, and then they told me to put on this gigantic gas mask. I did so, and one of the troops fiddled around with it, strapping it tightly to me. It was heavy, hard to see out of, hot and difficult to breathe. Just looking at the world through the lenses made it lose its sense of reality. My breathing sounded like some giant monster through the mask. What the fuck happened? 402s? What? At this point, I had no idea what was happening. My thoughts exactly! With much trepidation, I asked the trooper adjusting my mask. Excuse me. Has something happened?
Where were you? What were you doing?
Hey, don't answer my question with more questions. I was the one asking you. I, fell from a rope bridge way back in the mountains. I think I passed out on the riverbed. I don't actually know what day it is.
Today is June 22nd, 1983. Wednesday.
That surprised me. Satoko pushed me off the bridge on Tuesday, the 21st. That meant I'd been asleep on that riverbed for an entire day. Forgive me for asking again, but did something happen? Why is the SDF here? Is this a drill? Had my question been that difficult for him? None of the troopers would answer me. What happened? The one in the driver's seat, talking on his own radio, turned on the vehicles. He turned the dial and some broadcast station or another came in. I started to listen to the voice of a radio announcer I was familiar with.
Was conducted at the Prime Minister's office. In regards to questions from the press, the SDF had not responded to the disaster promptly. Was directly related to this unprecedented, unheard-of catastrophe. Chief Cabinet Secretary Okuno had this to say. And so I believe that once the SDF received the dispatch order from the prefectural governor, they responded promptly. According to him, the SDF was prompt to respond to the crisis after receiving their orders. He implied that it was the prefecture's responsibility for taking too long to comprehend the situation. When did the governor who requested the SDF's dispatch actually become aware of the outbreak of such an unprecedented catastrophe? And did he not invite further damage because of the time lost before he went the request of disaster relief? In other words, because of the bureaucracy? We are awaiting further investigation into the matter.
That was Mr. Akata, reporting from the Prime Minister's official residence. At this point, we can take another look at the political response following this disaster. Disaster? In the middle of the night between June 21st and June 22nd, a large-scale disaster broke out in Hinamizawa village, Shishibone. The details have not yet been investigated, but there was an eruption of volcanic gas from somewhere in the Hinamizawa area. Holy shit! The gas was relatively heavy, and as it spewed out, it began to flow. That flow went down along a small river and headed directly into Hinamizawa village. After a few hours, it had covered the entire region. It happened in the middle of the night, 2 to 4 a.m. Every home and household in the village was afflicted. With most of the residents asleep, it is thought that all died without noticing the crisis. The catastrophe striking in the middle of the night causes detection to come too late. But there was still one small opportunity to have noticed it. 3 a.m. A news dealer shop in Okinomiya sent a vehicle carrying the morning newspaper to its branch office in Hinamizawa. Usually the shop would be contacted upon the vehicle's arrival, but this morning that didn't happen. The news dealer's shop had made repeated calls but got no response. The shopkeeper sent his eldest son to check on things, but they lost contact with him as well. It is extremely regrettable. If they had contacted the police or fire department at this point, it is highly possible the situation would have turned out more positively. At the very least, it's possible that a portion of the village might have been saved from the tragic annihilation. 6 a.m. Residents in areas in the same region began continuously calling 119 to report the smell of rotten eggs, dizziness, nausea, and headaches. The fire department received the same reports, all from the same confined region. They speculated a truck loaded with chemicals may have gotten into an accident and reported it to the local police. 6:30 a.m. Contact was lost with a patrol car on duty in the Hinamizawa area after the officer reported the smell of rotten eggs. The local police considered the possibility of a large-scale disaster involving highly lethal gas and reported to the prefecture and prefectural police at 7:15 a.m. 8 a.m. The governor was traveling to nearby prefectures for inspection. So in accordance with regulations, the prefectural environmental disaster prevention chief was provisionally escalated to Director General and set up a disaster countermeasures office. However, without contacting the governor, the countermeasures came too late. As has recently been pointed out by citizens groups, his trip with honorary Diet members to inspect other prefectures was based solely on good relations, and it's rumored they preoccupied themselves with the spring drinking party. Sources closer to him had claimed the government had been drinking all night and had gone to sleep in a drunken state. He was completely drunk when the environmental chief phoned him as well, and apparently he could not get him to pay any attention to the matter. And so it took about an hour for the governor to sober up, gain an understanding of the situation, and gather information. Though not as extreme as the governor's case, the environmental chief who became director general in the government's absence will likely also be questioned about his negligence. In addition, without any procedures in place at the prefecture's side that always predict catastrophes this massive, they would always react too late and end up being the fatal. 9:12 a.m. On the advice of the prefectural police, the governor requested a disaster relief mission from the SDF. By the time the chemical defense unit, equipped with protective equipment, had arrived on the scene, 8 hours had already passed since the incident's outbreak. Whatever the case may be, it was unfortunate this happened while everyone was sleeping in the middle of the night. Had the same disaster occurred during the day, it likely would have been entirely different. Oh, good God! All households in the Hinamizawa village region were wiped out. Jeez. There were over 1,000 victims. The SDF is still confirming the situation on the ground. but their results are predicted to only increase that number. Here with us in the studio today is Dr. Fujiwara, a professor at university who is well acquainted with volcanic disasters. Doctor, can such a sudden and horrible outburst of poisonous gas actually happen?
It isn't all that unusual for this to happen right around craters, at least. Japan is a volcanic nation, and so has many active volcanoes. There is always a danger of hazardous gas around any of those craters, and it's generally a rule among mountain climbers not to go near them.
Does this mean the rotten egg smell that visited Hinamizawa was the normal sort of gas from volcanic craters?
Judging by how it smelled like rotten eggs, we think it was hydrogen sulfide, a gas seen particularly frequent in accidents compared to other volcanic gases. If it's dense, it becomes extremely dangerous.
Hinamizawa is very far away from the craters of any volcanoes. Can hydrogen sulfide be generated even from a place not close to a crater?
I don't know all the details, so I can't say anything concrete, but in other countries there are records of gas eruptions due to magma buildup under hot springs. It's an extremely rare event, but it is possible for such a thing to happen even in a region not near craters.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We appear to have an announcement from the Japan Defense Agency. Miss Marukawa, are you here? Are you there?
Yes, I'm at the Japan Defense Agency.
The agency has just made an announcement regarding the source of the Hinamizawa village gas disaster. Analysis from the Ground Self-Defense Forces Department of Chemistry has found that the gas was a mixture of carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide.
Miss Murakawa, do you know whether the gas is still erupting or spraying in nearby areas?
According to the SDF's 9th Division, who are currently engaged in a rescue operation in Hinamizawa Village, the gas density is steadily decreasing. They've announced that the damage will not spread. However, it does not change the fact that surrounding areas are still in danger, and that very strict observation must be maintained.
That was Murakawa from the Japan Defense Agency. And now we have a report on the state of those who have been made to evacuate the Okinomiya area. Okay. Shimo Shinozaki Elementary School is one of the evacuation sites, and we currently have a reporter on scene.
Oh god. Wait. What? Inside the jeep, clambering and bouncing on the rough road, none answered my muttered question. An unprecedented catastrophe had destroyed Hinamizawa in a single night. Where was Hinamizawa Village anyway? Someplace deep in the mountains, right? The names of places I'd heard about on the radio were always like that. They were all places I'd never heard of, much less knew the locations of.
Sorry.
Wiped out? What does that mean? Don't they usually say how many died and how many were injured? How many people were alive? Where did everyone evacuate to? Eventually, we came into view of Coach's clinic. For the first time, I saw the flag of Japan hanging on the pole outside. Japan's circular sun hung down as though exhausted. Many SDF tents were set up in the clinic's big parking lot, and many strict security vehicles were parked there as well. When they saw the jeep coming, men in white clothing and gas masks came running out of the clinic, frantic, carrying a stretcher. "You're going to be all right. How do you feel? Can you walk?" "Yes." "Ow." And because of my ows, they forced me to lay on the stretcher anyway. People who seemed like doctors were looking at me and notifying others of my conditions via radio. Multiple wounds. High possibility of fractures and internal damage. Large laceration in the head. Pupils normal, but even without bleeding from the fundus, brain damage is still possible. And then, from the clinic entrance, people lying on stretchers were brought outside to replace me. Judging by their clothing, they were from Hinamizawa, and that's how they knew they were victims. They brought the stretchers in front of a truck. Two troops, holding shoulders and legs like some kind of baggage, picked them up and threw them into the truck. In the trunk of the truck, people's bodies, piled in heaps. They were just like baggage, and that told me they were already nothing but shells. Oh my god! At that moment, I remembered all those colorful sacks filling the trunks, and them lined up in the schoolyard like a fish market. Hundreds of empty shells. Corpses. 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 You jackasses! Don't just throw the victims in like that! They lived here! The troops carrying the sacks answered me with a humble salute. The world didn't need this insane version of Hinamizawa. My My final wish. Again. It was granted. Jeez! I didn't understand anything anymore. None of it mattered. I wished, I cursed, and then it happened the next day. Then please, tomorrow morning, let me die. That insane night is still going on. Please, please end it already. Hey, he's lost consciousness! Shout his name! Quickly! Mayabara-kun! Can you hear me? If you can hear me, just blink! Mayabara-kun! Mayabara-kun! Mayabara... Suddenly, the world didn't matter to me anymore. I wasn't interested in their cries. His breathing stopped! Get his respiratory tract open! Use CPR! Make him live! Damn it! Damn it! No more dead people! Nobody deserves to die! Don't kill him! Don't kill him! I could hear the voice of a man crying and screaming in my ears. Nobody deserves to die. Those words came from his heart. They were so commonplace, and they soaked into my heart too. Maybe it was a mistake to take someone's life, even if it was to save Satoko. If this is the price I had to pay, this horrible tragedy, then this is a little much, Oyashiro-sama. Why did you never punish me? Come to think of it, Satoko said something. Oyashiro-sama's actual curse never goes for the target at first, but kills everyone they love before that. Oyashiro-sama's curse. It was a convenient excuse I told myself at the very end, that it wasn't my curse that destroyed it, but Oyashiro-sama's. Given that I was in a stretcher, this next bit might have been obvious. But last of all, I realized one thing. I had not heard those footsteps following me, even once. And now I was liberated, as the cries of the Higurashi I couldn't have been hearing filled my mind. Their tearful ensemble was the only funeral march I had. Achievement unlocked, liberation. June 22nd, 1983, early morning. A widespread disaster occurred in Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone Prefecture. Volcanic gas, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen sulfide erupted from Onigafuchi Swamp, one of the Hinamizawa area's water sources, and spread through the entire village. There were 1,200 victims. 20 have gone missing. The catastrophe was unprecedented, forcing local governments to evacuate approximately 600,000 people. According to later investigations, magma pools and hot springs were uncovered directly under Onigafuchi Swamp, and the gas that gushed from it was determined to be cause of the disaster. In addition, directly after the incident broke out, many came forth claiming the disaster was a curse based on Hinamizawa village legends, first sparking a wave of chaos. There are apparently local legends of a curse spreading of a miasma destroying the village, and some scholars believe a similar gas may have happened in the past and remain part of these legends. More extreme periodicals suggested this was an extension of the string of freak death instances that have been happening in recent years in Hinamizawa Village, stirring interest and theories about this curse of Oyashiro-sama. In addition, relatives of those in Hinamizawa Village who had escaped the disaster complained of sickness afterwards and were hospitalized. Some of them even died of unknown causes, further encouraging such extreme opinions. On top of that, several relatives professing to be possessed by Oyashiro-sama's curse committed suicide in strange ways, and the impact on disasters has had the entire nation can no longer be ignored. Wild visions of terrible toxic gas sneaking around in the middle of the night killing people spilled across the country, causing a steady stream of people complaining of insomnia, difficulty breathing, headaches, dizziness, etc. Some who identified themselves as being obsessed by it even began doing odd things. Many of these were mistakenly attributed to the tabloid press. But afterwards, some even began to call the mental issues arising from the Hinamizawa tragedy the Hinamizawa syndrome. The Hinamizawa village region, the object of all kinds of rumors and speculation, is currently closed off, and even flying overhead is prohibited. The prohibition was, at one point, undone as a result of the decrease in the gas's density. But that autumn, another gas was confirmed, leading to the area being cordoned off again. Word is it that the area is sound asleep, all traces of its former life intact. I missed that. Only one survivor remains, Keiichi Maebara, age, who lived at Hinamizawa village. At the time of rescue, he had some terrible breathing due to fluid buildup in his lungs, but as a result of life-saving procedures, he was kept alive. He is currently in a general hospital somewhere in the prefecture. The press have been asking for him for some time, but all interviews are being refused. What did he see in Hinamizawa? What happened between June 21st and June 22nd in Hinamizawa village? Today he remains silent, unwilling to speak of it. He's still alive? What? Great Hinamizawa Disaster in Memoriam List. Jiro Tomataki, real name unknown, possibly committed suicide in the village of Mio Takano, strangled to death in the mountains of Kurode Oishi, went missing during investigation. Katsuya Kumatami went missing during investigation. Kyosuke Irai, possibly committed suicide. Rika Frey, possibly murdered on the shrine. Gas disaster in Memoriam List. Reina Ryugu, Mion Sonozaki, Oyo Sonozaki, Satoko Hojo, Teppai Hojo, Ichiro Maebara, Aiko Maebara, Daiki Tomita, Saguro Okumura, Komita Chike, Kichiro Kimiyoshi, Yukikazu Kameda, Tatsuyoshi Kasai, Shion Sonozaki committed suicide at the victim's hospital. Keiichi Maebara attempted suicide at the victim's hospital. Diagnosed with a severe mental disorder due to disaster and undergoing long-term surgery, has refused all interview requests by the media and is living days in peace. Higurashi when they cry. Whoa. Holy crap. Okay. I was not expecting your credits. Oh. Wow. Okay. Thoughts? I'm confused. I don't know. I don't. Gas, what the? Higurashi When They Cry, 7th expansion. Welcome to Hinamizawa. What the fuck? Huh? 2003, late summer. An elderly couple living in Osaka Prefecture discovered a cassette tape while organizing the possessions of their son who passed away 8 years ago. Their son went missing when his fishing boat capsized in 1995. He was 47 at the time of his death. 8 years later, in 2003, they had begun to organize their son's remains in order to organize their minds and came across the cassette tape in question. From 1975 to 1989, the deceased had experienced working as a journalist for a photography periodical, and this tape is thought to have been created during that time. The label on the tape read 11/28/1983 Keiichi Maebara. It is thought the tape was recorded during an interview with Keiichi Maebara, the only survivor of the Great Hinamizawa disaster that occurred in June of 1983. As the only person who lived through the disaster on the night of June 21st, shrouded in mystery, many interested parties attempted to question him, but he never once spoke physically to anyone in a public place. Therefore, the tape caused quite a stir, possibly being of extremely high value. What? Click. It's really hard to talk about stuff when I know I'm being recorded.
Please don't worry about it. Here, it won't be a problem if I do this, right?
After this, the sound quality dramatically decreases. Did he cover the recording device with something?
Then let's get started. Here's my first question. Keiichi-kun, where were you the night of the great disaster?
I had gone behind the shrine, and then took a path through the woods for a while. There's a rope bridge there. A little while before you get into the mountains. I fell from there and lost consciousness.
Did this happen during the night of the disaster between the 21st and the 22nd?
No. It was the morning of the 21st, on Tuesday. Which means I woke up on the afternoon of the next day. I think I was out for a day and a half.
Why on earth were you there? I mean, I'm sure everyone wants to know, but the bridge you fell from that day, a weekday, I might add, was quite far from both your house and the school, wasn't it? Speaking frankly, there are some who say you know of the great disaster who you knew of the great disaster beforehand, and fell from the rope bridge as you were trying to flee the village.
This isn't a joke. Please don't be so arbitrary about this.
I think it's a terrible thing to say too. Please don't be offended. Anyway, about the rope bridge you fell from, it was right here on the map, right? The rope bridge beyond the back of the shrine, and through the path in the woods.
Probably. I never went over there, so I can't say for sure.
I guess I just want to know why you were out there somewhere you'd never been before on a weekday morning.
Interesting.
And then, well, about the riverbed you fell unconscious on, have you heard of the rumors about that being impossible?
Impossible. That word. Again. For a little while, Keiichi Maebara mutters the word impossible several times.
Why
Would it be impossible?
You know how the volcanic gas originated in the Onigafuchi swamp? Some scholars did some pretty delicate simulations and modeling and discovered something very interesting. The volcanic gas was heavier than the air, so it went along the ground, flowing into the lower and lower places, kind of like what water does. And with Onigafuchi swamp as its source, they were able to test how much it would take for the gas to erupt and spread across the whole village. So, well, that riverbed you were unconscious on? The gas, it would have flowed down there.
I don't really understand what you're getting at.
In other words, if you were really passed out on the riverbed, you would have been in the middle of all the toxic gas that was spreading everywhere that night. That means there was no chance you could have been passed out there.
What?
Allow me to be a little more frank. I think that maybe you might be telling a lie. During the Great Disaster, you were hiding in a safe place, keeping an eye out for when the gas got thinner, then reappeared and were secured by the SDF. How about that? Is that right on the mark?
For a short time, the journalist presses Keiichi Maebara further, in a teasing way, but all that can be heard are very heavy sighs. Even if that was the case, I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
What do you mean you wouldn't be surprised?
Was this recording really taken of Keiichi Maebara? Some harbor suspicions. You said it before, didn't you? That it was impossible. Impossible things happen in that Hinamizawa all the time. There are people who shouldn't exist. Dead people end up alive. It's not really that unusual. Never thought I, of all people, would be asked to prove that I was still alive when I was supposed to have died. The journalist and Keiichi Maebara both laughed for a while. To verify its authenticity, I had others in the Maebara family check tapes with his voice in it. However, the sound was not clear, and much time had passed, so the relatives I checked couldn't remember what he sounded like. I was unable to gain positive proof it was actually Keiichi Maebara's voice.
Alright then, I'll change the subject. What do you think of the debate about whether this disaster was the curse, the 5th year of the serial freak death incidents in Hinamizawa?
I don't think it was. I was the curse that year after all.
Hmm? What do you mean?
What do I... I was just answering the question. Doubts also remain regarding the date, 11/28 on the tapes. The curse. Well, you probably won't believe me when I tell you this. I was the one who caused it. I was the one who wished for the whole village to die. And it happened.
What an exciting story.
Exciting? I suppose you could call it that. After Keiichi Maebara's failed suicide attempt on a certain August day, 2 months after the disaster, he was diagnosed with a mental disorder and transported to a treatment facility. I was the one who killed Takano-san and Coach and Oishi too. At the time, I had some kind of divine power. Yes, I suppose it was like footsteps.
Footsteps? Wait, What's that supposed to mean?
You. Have you never heard footsteps before? Tip, tap, click, click. The facility never allowed any news coverage, so it is extremely unlikely that a tape from the media dated after August 1983 would have ever had his voice on it.
Today, when you're walking around... Oh.
Today, when you're walking around, try stopping suddenly. Something interesting will happen. Anyway, if you hear an extra footstep, even though you'd already stopped walking, you better be careful, you know.
Yes, I'll be careful.
Is what I'm saying really that funny to you? However, the reporter had been criticized for his forceful methods of collecting data while he was active, so there was still a possibility that he broke into the facility and forced Keiichi Maebara to talk. You've been doing nothing but laugh in my face this whole time. You're just like Coach. You pretended to sympathize with me, to listen to what I have to say. But your eyes are telling me you think I'm a lunatic.
That's not true.
No, I can tell. Your eyes are the same as Coach's. Is this truly Keiichi Maebara's voice? The authenticity of this recording is still wrapped in mystery. I never heard the footsteps again after that day, so I don't think I have that terrible power anymore. Perhaps, right here, right now, I'll wish for you to die. I'll wish for your death, for saying all these unpleasant things. Yes. This time, why don't I decide how you die? Takano-san was burnt to death, so let's go with the opposite, with water. I hope you drown and die. How's that? 15 years after this tape was created, the reporter, just as Keiichi Maebara had predicted, died in an accident out on the sea.
If I'm in top form like I was then, you'd die before tomorrow morning for sure. Oh, whoops.
If I'm in top form like I was then, you'd die before tomorrow morning for sure. Now then, I wonder how many days it will take you to drown. You'd better be careful, you know. Don't go getting yourself killed by some stupid curse I put on you, okay? The recording ends in the middle of Keiichi Maebara's laughter. And Keiichi Maebara? Late on the night of 11/30, 1983, 2 days after the interview, he suddenly died from a high fever, cause unknown. Records remain of the strange words he kept giving after pressing the call button the day before he died. What? An extra set of footsteps. All cast review session has become available. The Great Hinamizawa Disaster.
Holy shit! What the flying fuck? Okay, I don't know what to... God, I don't know what to think.
Oh. Holy crap. Okay. Okay, first off, I'm confused. How did Keiichi suddenly predict how people die, and how did he curse people? The disaster, I got nothing. I literally have nothing. The only thing I could think of was how it went back to talking about how Rika was supposedly was the 8th generation, and it said that if something would happen to the supposed reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, the village would be destroyed. And not long after we discovered Rika's dead body, that night, the village was essentially wiped out. But, God, my head hurts. I don't know. What the? I got nothing. You guys told me that there was an answers arc for, I don't know, I think you said there was like an answers arc for each chapter, so it kind of helps explain stuff. I got nothing. I can't think of anything. The only thing, like I said, the only thing I could think of was that detail where it mentioned about Rika being the supposed 8th generation, and that when she died, something bad was going to happen to the village. But then I started thinking, what about Keiichi? First off, how did he survive the gas? How was he able to basically predict these supposed characters' deaths? How did he wish for it, and then all of a sudden it happened? How did he predict that one guy's death, the interviewer, and the footsteps? What is up with the freaking footsteps? I got so many things going around in my head, I am so freaking confused. I have nothing. I literally have nothing. Holy shit. Well, fuck it. We're going to keep the thing rolling. We're not going to save this up onto an extra episode. We are literally going to go on with the freaking all-cast review session. We're going straight to that because I want to finish this. So, maybe this will help clear some... It probably won't, but god damn it.
Thank you very much for enjoying Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 3, Tatarigoroshi. How'd you like it? It had a different sort of atmosphere than the previous chapters. I'll be happy if you enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it. I felt terrible. I miss Satoko. I'm sorry, Satoko, damn it.
A bad end again. The type which we're so fond of, huh? Personally, I wanted to get a scene of the gas coming in, the villagers spasming and foaming at the mouth one by one before dying. Do you all think so too?
Hell no! That'd be terrible.
Of course I do not think so. Again? It happened again? Huge bad end. Good lord. Huh? Michan, you sure seemed happy about the bad end. Well, it's more like we can all honestly do it at this point and laugh.
The terrible endings have been escalating through each chapter, and it finally reached a culmination, I suppose.
Everyone died together as friends. As friends, Nipa.
I guess you could say that. I die every time, though, and I'm a little tired of it. It'd be nice to have an ending where I didn't die once in a while.
Tomotaki-san, you're kind of like a news reporter. When you die, it's like, oh, we're in the second half now. Kind of.
Actually, yeah, that's kind of like how it is. As soon as he dies, all the shit goes down.
Okay, now here are all the new character portraits that debuted in this chapter. Everyone give a big round of applause. First, it's Coach Ide Kyosuke-san.
And I'm honored to have your introduction. Hello there. I was a minor character, but having a full portrait like this makes me feel really important.
It's true. You had too many appearances and too much dialogue to be a minor character this time.
I don't know if I'll appear in the next scenario, so please root for me.
I don't know, I had fun doing your voice.
Thank you very much. Next up we have Chie-sensei, who has been around since Chapter 1 but never had a portrait until now. Hello there, everyone. They've had me appear in the school scenes ever since the first chapter, but for whatever reason, I didn't have my own portrait. I wonder why. Yes, I wonder. Oh, someone gave Chie-sensei a seat, please. Okay, now everybody is here. Reina, you can do the honors again. Okay, everyone, please pick up the cup nearest to you on your table. There are plenty of different drinks.
These after parties have really gotten lively. How many do we have here now?
Including us, I think there are about 10 people.
Now we finally have the same number of minors and adults. We can all drink without being ashamed.
Speaking of beer, how is it that something so delicious when cold turns so bad when warm? One of the 7 wonders of the world, I say. I wonder why.
Okay, I'll pour some beer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Huh? There were 6 adults here?
Meep. I would like the foamy barley tea as well.
Rika!
Rika-chan, you can't drink.
Anyway, Reina-san, let's get this moving.
Well, okay. Can I have everyone's attention, please?
God, I can't do girl voices, Jesus Christ.
Alright, everyone. Excellent work on the Tatarigoroshi chapter. Cheers!
Cheers. Yay, clip, clip, clip.
Where's my portrait, damn it? Okay then, let's get down to our traditional plot discussion.
Still though, this chapter just confused us yet again. Well, if anyone has an opinion, please raise your hand.
Wow, everyone's being so discreet. No hands? Then why don't I break the ice? Oh, excuse me. Could you change the music, please? To something a little more mysterious. Yeah, that's good. Breaking the... What the fuck? You know, screw it. I like this fourth wall breaking.
The mood has been set. Alright, Takano-san, take it away.
I think that just by poring over the Tatarigoroshi chapter, the mystery won't be revealed.
I know what you mean. Obviously, that's how the stories have been set up.
Was there something like that in particular?
I don't know if I'm right, but in Onikakushi, when Mayabara-kun was eating in the restaurant with Oishi-san, Sonozaki-san found out, and it was a little mysterious, right? It was certainly mysterious as in Onikakushi, but after reading Watanagashi, a few things made a lot of sense.
When I mentioned the restaurant with cute uniforms during the story, it must have meant Angel Mort. And Angel Mort is owned by the Sonozaki family, so...
Someone who knew Kei-chan was there too, and told me. It actually makes a good amount of sense, right? That's what we mean.
Actually, yeah, that makes more sense now that I think about it. How did that not click in my head? Jeez.
There are subtle differences in the Higurashi stories, but I think there's 3 facets that are the same for each. The character settings, for example.
I was scary in Onikakushi, but that wasn't only because it was Onikakushi. It was because my character was the exact same in all 3 stories, is that it?
Yeah.
I agree with the characters being exactly the same. The most extreme case being me dying in the same way in the same place every time.
No matter which story it is, you always die on the same day.
There's a scene where, during Watanagashi, Takano-san and Tomotaki-san sneak into the ritual implement storehouse. The same scene may have still happened in the other stories, even though it wasn't portrayed.
I think it still happened.
Okay.
Save for a few events, the weather the day of the festival, and what we did in the club, and Satoko's uncle coming home. It's almost all the same.
Which means we have a bunch more questions. If the stories are told in exactly the same environment each time, why do they end up being so different?
If we think in a general sound novel type of way, sometimes the story branches depending on the choices, right?
So like, if in Watanagashi you had given me the doll to my sister? An unavoidable bad end from a choice so early on. That's pretty scary. Well, in Tatarigoroshi, maybe whether you decide to kill the uncle or not.
I think it was way before that. I think it branched back when the uncle's lover disappeared because of some trouble and he returned to Hinamizawa.
And then, what was the first branch in Onikakushi?
I don't know. Wait. Yeah, it was! Oh my god, duh, it was Oishi.
I think it was when I appeared and started talking about the serial freak death incidents related to Oyashiro-sama's curse.
You know, I just thought of something. If Keiichi-san gave the doll to Mion-san, and if Oishi-san and my uncle hadn't appeared, would we not have spent our time in peace without anything happening? I see. Satoko's gotten right to the point. You're right. You can say that again. Then maybe we should pray Oishi-san and her uncle don't show up in this dark story. And then if we can prevent Sonozaki-san from getting in a bad mood, everyone will be happy. Yay, big sis, you're needed for the bad ending. Be careful, everyone. If you make my sister mad, you're sure to get a bad end. Well, what are you saying? Shion! Next time I'll pound nails into you without mercy. Bang, bang. Just you wait. We can't solve any of the mysteries thus far, but we seem to have put together a plan for how to get the story to end happily.
I wonder if that would really make us happy. Oishi-san and Teppai Hojo don't show up. Mion-san gets the doll. Is that all we have to do to make sure of?
You're right. We're all forgetting the most important thing. Remember the Great Hinamizawa disaster?
You cannot prevent natural disasters. Should we have everyone in the village put on gas masks to move away? It's probably Oyashiro-sama's curse, so we need to make sure not to make Oyashiro-sama angry.
This is getting a little tricky. We mustn't anger Oyashiro-sama, eh? And what should we do in order to prevent that?
The dam project itself is probably out of the question. Maybe if there was never a dam project in the first place.
That would be hard. If it didn't happen, we would need a ritual to quell Oyashiro-sama's anger.
Sinking a sacrifice into the Onigufuji swamp. A ritual sacrifice. A sacrifice? Who do we sacrifice? Come on, use your head. Someone who dies no matter what happens. If he's gonna die anyway, then we may as well have it help out Hinamizawa.
Oh, come on, leave poor Tomotaki alone. When you say dies no matter what, you're talking about me, aren't you?
I knew all along. I knew you had some very important role in this story, Jiro-san. We'll get you to play your part.
And with that, we have a blueprint for getting a nice, happy, good ending, don't we? Let's give it a try since we have time. Everyone involved, come over here.
First, we stop Uncle Hojo, whose lover ran out on him from returning to Hinamizawa.
Hiya, my name's Uncle Hojo. He has no portrait, so I'm standing in. I'm so lonely and blue because my lover ran away. Time to get back to Hinamizawa, lock up Satoko-chan, and raise her into a maidservant. Why not I take my motorbike back? I'll just put in the key and click. Click. Kaboom!
Judgment! To ashes and dust shall you return. Satoko-chan, don't you think this is a little too much gunpowder? I hope Coach is alright.
What the fuck? Next, we stop Oishi from showing up. Me this time? My name is Kurada Oishi, a hot, good-looking middle-aged man who looks like a blues singer. Nice description, dummy. Good lord. Kaboom!
Meep. Judgment for you. And lest we forget, a follow-up service for my sister. Come here, big sis. There's a cute little doll for you. Aw, how nice. I'm not really understanding this.
And finally, we must quell Oyashiro-sama's anger.
Then, will our last actor please come up?
Tie him fast, wrap him up, and hang him. He'll sink for 3 days, right?
Jeez! I'm not that patient. Let's just get it over with.
Jesus Christ! Oh, poor Tomotaki.
And with that, the case has been closed.
The end.
Oh no, all of a sudden, this arm of mine is glowing with an awesome power. This pile of corpses is a pretty big deal.
Is that me again?
Huh? It's the phone. Hello? Oh, Keiichi-kun? Thanks for all your work.
Yeah, it looks like you're all having a roaring old time, and yet here I am busy with reading the scenario for the next story. Whatever. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll let you off without any teasing. Is Shion there? Can you put her on?
What? You're going to announce it here? I wanted to keep it secret for a little while longer, but okay. A secret between Shion-san and Keiichi-san? What do you mean? Nobody told me about this, nobody! Okay, Kei-chan, let's say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. The main character of the next story will be Shion Sonozaki.
What? What? What?
Yes, so that's that. The one topping the popularity chart since her first appearance. The late appearing younger sister of twins has been the pattern of things ever since the days of TH.
I have no idea what that means, and it doesn't matter. Anyway, I've been fired from my main character post for once. If the rumors are right, I might even get a portrait finally.
Yahoo! Awesome! We get a Keiji portrait! Hey! Well, portraits of Kei-chan would be a big waste of disk space. If all can fit in one disc, there's a pretty high chance he'd be the first one dropped. Hey! Are you okay with this, Shion-san? The main character always meets some terrible fate in the end. Well, until now. But that doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen next time. With Tatarigoroshi, we're already at the third game in the Higurashi When They Cry series. The first half presented a lot of strange and exciting mysteries, but starting next time, the mysteries will start to be solved in the second half, marking the start of the investigation arc. Temporary name.
Really? So this is the Answers arc I've been hearing about.
That means it'll be a thrilling story where I become a detective and solve all these crazy, unfair mysteries. You all better think up good signature phrases. Like, you, sir, are the criminal. It won't happen, never. You'll get too close to the three family secrets, be imprisoned, and then get tortured. You're a shoo-in to meet a violent, unnatural death. Sis, I should say the same to you. Are you mentally prepared for me to see through all your mysteries and secrets that you have to apologize to me can commit suicide? No chance of Oyashiro-sama's curse for me, is there? Anyway, the new story about to begin the second half, temporarily called Mayakashi, or Eye-Opening, is currently undergoing diligent development. We should probably be able to unveil it to you after in the near future, so I hope you'll look forward to it. Onikakushi, Watanagashi, and Tatarigoroshi. Groshi, fuck. What truths will you all come up with after reading these three stories? We just come up with more questions instead of theories. More questions! Reina has no clue either. For all of you warriors who never yielded to these three mysteries and kept on fighting, we present you with one final scenario as thanks for your enthusiasm, one which we never originally planned on giving to you. Please enjoy it.
What? Another scenario?
Huh. Interesting. I'm guessing that's what they were referring to, the, Wayakashi, the Answers arc. Okay, so that was chapters, 12, 13, and the cast party. Okay, I got nothing. Well, at least the good news is the next one will finally be able to get some answers, but that's not what I'm going to record next. After I get this uploaded, I'm going to record another episode of Danganronpa, and next,
We will get started on Umineko! I've been waiting for this one. I've been wanting to play it for a long time.
oh, also, I'm probably gonna have to refer to this. I've started watching the Higurashi anime. Now, I've also took your advice, but here's the thing. I've been switching between the English dub and the Japanese dub. I've just been comparing the voices, and I can kind of see why a lot of people don't like the English dub. But I'm trying to be very careful. I've only, watched now, here's the thing. I've only watched, I think, maybe 2 or 3, the first 3 episodes, I think. I'd have to check, I believe. But if one of you would be kind enough to tell me, I think one of you guys actually told me, but I can't remember. One of you guys told me that the anime does encompass certain arcs, and I can't remember what those arcs are. I think one of you guys mentioned that like the first 4 episodes encompass the Onikakushi arc, and the Watanagashi arc is compressed into 1 episode. I believe that's what you said. I may be wrong, but I probably look back on my comments, kind of like see which one it was that you guys are talking about. Because I want to watch the anime, see if there's something that I spotted, kind of like refresh my memory a little bit. I know it's a bit rushed, but I feel like there's something in there that, I don't know, might make me, remember something. Or, I don't know. Anyway, like I said, I think I'm only like 2 or 3 episodes in. But, anyway, I'll leave this here. We'll have ourselves another episode done and rope by tomorrow.
And we shall essentially start on Umineko, the game that the visual novel I've been waiting for.
I've been really excited to get started on that one. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me on this little series. Can't wait to get started on the next one. And I will see you all in the next video.